There are many considerations for organisations that are thinking about significant changes to their IT infrastructure, particularly when you're thinking about changing to a cloud partner, such as ETI. One of the considerations is often that pain of change, or the perception that the transition period is going to be a really painful, complex process. One of the other considerations that organisations have is the fact that there's a potential impact on their existing IT teams. What we try to illustrate with the following couple of videos is by talking to a couple of organisations that have literally only just come on board with etiCloud. So they have actually just been through that process. So it's a very raw experience as far as that's concerned. And hopefully it'll give some insight of the impacts that it's had on them and the way that it's been dealt with from our perspective, so that you can actually see that pain of change and that integration with existing IT teams can be a really pain-free process if you choose your partner right. Hopefully you'll find the videos interesting. I'd be interested to hear your comments, so by all means comment below, or if you need any further information, please get in touch. Thanks for looking. Bye for now. So thanks ever so much for joining me this morning, guys. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this. Can I just start by asking you to introduce yourselves and tell me a little bit about Frettens and what they do?
Well, my name's Matthew Fretten. I'm the managing partner at Frettens Solicitors. We are based down on the south coast, and we've got 2 offices, one in Christchurch in Dorset, and one in Ringwood in Hampshire, not too far apart from each other. We've got about 75 staff, and we're, I suppose you'd call us a full service, small to medium law firm.
Okay. Super.
And I'm Jane Newman, and I'm the IT manager here. I'm predominantly based at the Christchurch office. That's the larger office of the 2, but I service all IT requirements for both offices.
Cool.
And I'm Lewis Barr, marketing manager. As you can probably see from behind me, I'm now working from home, although I used to be based primarily in the Christchurch office.
It's a usual kind of situation now, which is obviously part of the conversation. That's super. Can I just set the scene a little bit and ask what services do etiI provide for Frettens?
Yeah, I mean, they provide quite a few sort of services, really. The main one is predominantly the main system that everybody uses at both offices. So it's a cloud-based hosted desktop environment, which all of our users log on to and use all day, every day.
Super.
That's the main thing. But also they provide IT support. So that's across the board. So that's not only for all our staff members, if they have any issues or questions, they can ring up and get support, but also for myself. So if I have any software questions or issues that I need to talk about, they will provide me with the support that I need as well.
Awesome, great stuff. So can I ask you what was the situation you had before you used us, and what issues did you have as a result of the kind of environment you previously had?
Issues? Well, we had many. We had many issues, didn't we, Matt?
Yeah, there were. We'd had a long relationship with the previous supplier over a long period of time, during which there'd been a lot of change. Jane might talk about some of the specific challenges, but from a strategic point of view, we were at a position where we were looking at growth, we were looking at changing the way people were working, and we were looking at an affordable, flexible approach to our IT, which, after our staff costs every year, is the biggest overhead the business carries. So it was absolutely crucial to us, and we do see our IT as absolutely crucial in doing what we want to do in the future. So we're an ambitious business who want to expand and grow, and we needed IT support that could enable us and improve that journey for us. And I think we got to a point where we weren't we weren't receiving the service or the support that was going to allow us to do that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so really from a technical perspective, our biggest challenge was that we had an aging on-premise solution, which was nudging ever nearer to Microsoft ending its support, which just throws up all sorts of problems.
Right.
But by having an aging system, it really restricted our options to really sort of grow the business in a way, because there were so many limitations with the system, and also trying to get it to perform in the way that we wanted it to. We had a lot of performance issues. In order for staff to be able to work remotely, there was significant cost, because trying to sort of put modern solutions onto an old system becomes very challenging. So we had to make the decision that it was really well overdue to be able to move on to something that is much more modern and up to date and flexible and agile to enable us to do all the things that we wanted to do as a business.
Super. It's often the case when you're trying to update legacy systems that have certainly been built over time, isn't it? It's that issue as far as that's concerned. So understand from your perspective where the decision came from and why you kind of got to there. What drove the decision in terms of using etiCloud?
Well, I mean, from a management perspective, we are very lucky to have Jane and her colleagues in our own internal IT team, but we were very conscious that for such a large change to our business, which was so crucial and absolutely crucial to get right in terms of partnering with the right supplier, we made the decision that we'd actually appoint a third-party IT consultant to help us with the tendering process. So we then removed some of the issues around relationships that we may have with IT suppliers locally and beyond. We also removed some of the issues we had with where we have commercial clients who were very keen to tender for the work. So we actually placed some trust in an IT consultant that knew us very well and knew what our requirements were. So we were very pleased to sort of hand that over to them, and they ran the tender process for us. So it was very much, unlike our current government often, it was sort of a hands-off sort of third-party approach where there was no suggestion that we'd be making a decision for the wrong reasons. So and etiCloud made it to the shortlist quite quickly.
Okay, that's good to know.
I mean, we made the decision that we were only going to do this once, in a very long time. So
hopefully,
making the right decision was absolutely crucial. So yes, we did a very significant tendering process, and there were a lot of others that were in the mix.
Yep.
But I think from my perspective, the things that really shouted out at us from etiCloud's proposal was just how, sort of clear and concise they were, and nothing seemed to faze them. Nothing was beyond doable. It was all incredibly positive. Even on paper, you could see just how positive their attitude was towards everything. It wasn't a difficult tender to read. Sometimes you get baffled with lots and lots of words, and I would spend some of my time kind of going, I think I might have to Google that. Which sometimes when you are reading sort of 70, 80 page tender documents and you have many of them to read, it was quite refreshing.
It becomes a bit soul destroying at that point, isn't it?
Yes, but we were determined to make the right decision.
And actually being a non-IT person, having to sort of contribute to the decision making. For my part, it was a tender response that I could understand with Jane's help, and also it was competitive, and it felt like etiCloud wanted to align themselves with our business and be a true partner rather than sell us stuff. It's very easy to baffle brains with long words and all the rest of it. And it didn't feel like that. It felt like they talk the same language, if that's not too trite.
No, that's fantastic to hear, because that's absolutely what we try to achieve. We're here to try to create long-lasting partnerships. It's not just about kind of selling something to the customer and then disappearing. It is literally about trying to become as ingrained with the business and become a real important part of your organisation. Because that's really where the true value is, isn't it? It's actually being a partner rather than just a supplier. And
I think if that relationship is right, then everybody benefits to a huge extent, and there is no downside if we're working together. If it becomes something else, then as it did with our previous supplier, then actually the joy and the fun is drained out of it very quickly, and it becomes counterproductive, and it doesn't work. I would also point, in terms of the process, what I found and the other partners found was really useful was at the end of the tender process, when we were down to a short list of, 2 or 3, we had a conference call with the senior guys at etiCloud, and we didn't quite look them in the eye, but we heard them in the ear, I suppose, and it felt like they really cared, really wanted the business, were really excited about picking us up as a client, and equally their approach and their pragmatism led us to develop that trust that makes you sign on the piece of paper.
I mean, I think the thing that came over very clearly was that your team definitely has the expertise to deliver the type of system that we were aspiring to have. And I think for us, it was a very big move to change from an on-premise solution to a fully cloud-based environment, because we'd had limited success with working remotely, and any staff member that had worked remotely were not terribly positive about their experience. So I think the thought of actually putting the entire business into a cloud-based environment was, from my perspective, very daunting, because I'm the person that has to answer the phone on a daily basis. So it was a big move for us, and it wasn't one that we took lightly. But I think we felt, the etiCloud gave us that confidence to go down that route, as opposed to being a little bit more cautious and saying, no, we'll stay with what we know. So I think I'm extremely glad that we did, because the end result has been fantastic, and all of our staff, without exception, have said, oh, it's amazing. I don't even have to log off. I can just shut my laptop lid, go home, open the laptop lid, and carry on working as normal.
Fantastic.
I think on the work. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I think on the working from home bit, just reflecting on what Jane said, we've always offered flexibility to all of our staff, but a lot have been quite reluctant to take it up for the limitations that we previously had. And you can see at the moment we've got probably 2/3, I think, of our fee earners work from home, at least in part, throughout the course of a week. Right. And that's allowed us what's essentially a very difficult time to offer a pretty seamless sort of service to our clients, and that's been a real advantage sort of coming out of lockdown, and as lockdown has started to ease and we've started seeing increase in instructions. So it's been a massive advantage for us over the past couple of months.
Super. I mean, I suppose you've already answered it to a great degree, but kind of a final question would have been, given that all this was happening within the midst of a global pandemic and an international lockdown, so that nobody really could kind of move about the country, that impact and that decision, the impact of that decision, seems to have been fairly significant for Frettens in terms of what difference it's made to you as a business.
Yes, I think we could probably sum it up by saying the timing couldn't have been worse, but also in a way it couldn't have been better, because thankfully the large lorry of equipment arrived on the day that Boris did his lockdown speech. So if we'd have been 24 hours later, we wouldn't have been sitting here having this conversation.
No.
But thankfully we were on the right side of luck that day. So we managed to get all the equipment delivered, but because etiCloud were so good at partnering with us, and I think for me that's been the key. They needed to partner with our internal IT department here, because they were so good at that. It meant that we could keep the project on track and still actually deliver and go live with this enormous project. In the thick of lockdown, and we actually went live in April, which was when the office was still closed. So it was by no means a small feat, but we stuck to the deadlines. The project went live, and it was as smooth as it could have gone.
I think from my perspective as well, as we look back on the last 4 months, is it April, May, June, July, and we look at what everybody has done and the pressures that have been placed on people. It's miraculous that we did it all on time and hit all the deadlines and all the rest of it, and hats off to Jane and her team internally, and to etiCloud, who made it as seamless as possible. I mean, every time I walked into Jane's room, there was a sort of 8-hour conference call going on with various technical bods talking about things I'll never understand. But there was no way the project wasn't going to be delivered on time, and we got there, and it was fantastic. But on a practical level, now at the end of July, where work is picking up, there's some pressures in terms of capacity, we're bringing people back. If we hadn't done what we had done, we would not be in the position we currently are, which is where we are looking to maximise the opportunities that are currently there, and to do more work and to better work for clients, and to bring more people back from furlough. We have very few left on furlough now, and virtually no fee earners. They're all in the office or working remotely for the majority. And we could not have done that if we hadn't have hit the project deadlines that we did in April. So, we have an advantage because we did what we did, and I couldn't be happier.
Fantastic. That's really good news. And from an end user perspective, how does that sit with you working from home now?
So I suppose from a user's perspective, it's been really good, because albeit that some of our staff have been on furlough for a while, and they've been coming back into the office and have been quite apprehensive about the fact that they were coming back to a new system, and they've not been at work for a little while. It was really easy to get people up and running. Logging in is the simplest thing. And once everybody knew what they were doing, it was a case of, if you want to work in the office, you can work in the office. If you want to work from home, you can work from home. Here's your new equipment. Take a Bluetooth headset with you, because we're also going live with telephony as well with yourselves imminently. Everyone's got their equipment. They're sort of eagerly awaiting that. But that's the next step on the journey to making our staff's experience as good as it can be, because then they can be working from anywhere, and it's a seamless operation. The clients would never know where the solicitors are working from, and we can all communicate with each other with ease.
Super.
And as someone who has really embraced the working from home thing in the last couple of months, I was a bit concerned, because I have to run quite a bit of design software and things that take up quite a bit of capacity, about having a sort of a remote desktop, so to speak. But everything's worked seamlessly. It's actually, if anything, quicker at home than it is in the office. And I come in once or twice a week, so I'm saving hours a week that I get to spend with the family. And that's something that's reflected, I think, across quite a few of our other fee earners as well. It's just, I think, that's sort of slight shift that we're seeing in sort of workplace culture that's kind of been a bit enforced over the past few months. it's really allowed us, sort of some of our fee earners in particular, to embrace that as well.
Super.
I would add to that, to Lewis's comments, insofar as we have a lot of staff who have really embraced working from home, and without exception, the productivity has gone up. So, we've seen a huge change in working practices over the last few months, and as a natural-born skeptic, I would take some persuading, but I certainly don't need any persuading now. And I'm absolutely delighted that we made the change when we did, so that we could take full advantage. And we've got some very happy staff who are very happy in the current environment working from home, and also are being far more productive. And that's because they've got the IT which doesn't let them down. That's
fantastic news. And it's such a great story to hear as well. It's really terrific to actually listen firsthand to that positive experience, and the best thing is about the positive difference it's made as well, in terms of not just from a technical perspective, but from a work-life balance and a general well-being and happiness perspective. It seems like it works all round there as far as that's concerned.
I think if we go back to your comment at the beginning, Mike, which was, changing supplier is a very daunting prospect. And I think I can honestly say it has been an incredibly challenging project to get this far. But I think with the right supplier, that journey can be a really positive one.
Yeah.
And so, what I've taken from this is do your homework, make sure you choose the right supplier, because that does make all the difference.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, before our corporate head gets too big to be able to get through a door,
no pressure, Mike. Yeah.
No pressure. Particularly as I'm the customer excellence director that now has to deliver that continuously to you afterwards. So no pressure whatsoever there. But I'm up to that challenge.